see the live streams counting down. It was counting down, and then it stopped counting down. I was going to do a real countdown.
I decided since I was in here, I might as well go ahead and actually log in, actually start the live stream. Now that I fixed my own stupidity, I overcame my own idiocy, so to speak. So I logged into Restream and I went into the wrong room, the wrong studio. So that's what happened. So I'm texting you going, where are you? And I was in the wrong spot. So sorry.
What streams are you part of? What do you got going on over there?
Well, no, you can set up like different studios, and I just clicked on the wrong one.
Okay.
So I'm a dum-dum. Sometimes we all make mistakes.
Hey, well, it's perfect because last week we started talking about, I don't even want to say, we were talking about transfer of wealth, and what we really were trying to talk about we were talking about transfer of wealth, but what we were talking about is how are you using this change to your benefit? All these things change it. And we started talking afterwards, and we were like, how are you using technology? What technologies are you using to further your business? How are you using them? And so that's what I figured we dig down that. And I just started some like 2 years ago, or however long I've been on Clubhouse now, I didn't use Clubhouse. Now I use it to network, to meet new people, to give my storytellers another place to chat. I use Calendly now because of the people that come into our rooms. They were saying, why don't you use this? It's so simple. And I talk to people in different time zones around the globe and things like that. And I would send 5 different emails back and forth. What time can you meet? What time can you meet? What time is that in your time zone? What time zone are you in? How many hours is that behind Eastern? What a waste of my time. And now I use Calendly, and that time I got back that time. How valuable is time? Give me time.
Yeah. I knew you were going to mention Calendly. Because it is one of those things, and I'm right there with you. I 100% like kind of, and I'm looking away because I'm actually pinging folks right now as well. But it's a huge time saver, right? I mean, and ultimately that is our most precious resource, right? It's the one thing we have that we will never get more of. It is always, we always have every moment of every day. We have less time than we had the moment before. It is, unquestionably something that we should hold dear and do our best to optimize our use of. And Calendly is just such a simple fix for that really, really, not for nothing, but like really annoying back and forth that would happen with every meeting you were trying to schedule, right? Like every meeting you tried to schedule, it goes emails back and forth. How about this time? Oh, I'm not available. How about this time? Oh, I'm not available. How about this time? I'm not. And then you finally pick a time, and then it's like, well, where are we meeting? Who's hosting? Am I setting up a Zoom? Or are you setting up a Zoom? It's just all these questions and answers back and forth via email. It's just massive time waste, right? Just a huge time suck. Like I bet you'd be shocked if you added up the number of hours of your life you've spent emailing back and forth with people on that kind of stuff. I bet you'd be shocked, right? And so Calendly is like one of those things. I forget where I came across it. I was introduced to it by somebody. And I think it was somebody sending me their link, and I was like, oh, what is this thing? And, it's like $100 for the year, or a little over that. It's like $10 a month ish. Right. So 2 cups of coffee a month. Right. So, 2 cups of coffee or like a breakfast a month, right, is basically the cost. And you end up with saving hours and hours of time over the course of a week, a month, a year, with those annoying back and forth, not to mention like the sanity that it helps you preserve, right? Because man, how annoying are those back and forths. Just incredibly frustrating. So, I mean, I use Calendly all the time. I know we talked about it in this room, and that's how you got introduced to it. I'm starting to use ChatGPT for some things. The one thing I would caution everyone with is like ChatGPT is amazing, but make sure you fact check it, because it is clear that it is not factually accurate necessarily. It can be, like, sometimes you fact check it and it's like, yeah, it got everything right. But sometimes you fact check it and you're like, well, that's not even a real thing. They just ChatGPT made that up, or it pulled it off of a website where somebody made it up. Right. So it doesn't do fact checking. So I would use that as a word of caution, but I've started using ChatGPT for things. I mean, technology is not going anywhere. Right. It is something that we should embrace and use to our advantage. The same way, 130 years ago, automobiles were embraced by early adopters and used to their advantage. The same way 100 years ago, planes were adopted, after the Wright brothers' first flight, and people started using planes to their advantage. One of the earliest commercial use of airplanes was for mail delivery. Right, was the United States Postal Service using airplanes to move mail around the country. So, technology can make all the difference. But here's the sort of cautionary tale is like, the world will keep moving forward. Technology will keep evolving, whether you want it to or not. It doesn't care. The momentum of the world around you does not care if you like it or not. Right? So you have to accept that change is inevitable and move with it rather than fight against it. It's a futile effort, right? Don't fight against it, move with it. And I think like that's the most important thing right now. Like, technology is evolving so quickly that it's really scary to a lot of people. But cars were really scary to people 120 years ago, right? Automobiles were really scary to people 120 years ago. And we get in them every day without thinking twice about it now, right? So imagine where the world's going to be 120 years from now. The holdouts who thought cars would never catch on, where are they now? Left behind, right? Still trying to get a horse hitched up to a wagon to get to the grocery store. So, which also grocery stores didn't exist 120 years ago. Anyway, I don't know. I'm rambling. Point is, change happens, right? Substitute a little word there in the front for a 4-letter word, but change happens. There's nothing you can do to stop it, right? So just figure out how to incorporate it into your life. That includes technology. So yeah, I don't know. What is there anything new you've adopted recently, Dom?
Well, let's say everybody's here. How are you guys doing? We're talking technology today. What have you adopted? What are you using that other people could benefit from? Some stuff might be old, everything. Somebody said, well, I'm not doing that yet, or I haven't tried it yet, or so what we really want to know are, how are you using it? And like, so we just talked about Calendly. Me and Tom both love it, right? One of the things that I know people are using it here, but I love Google Docs, and Google Docs, it's been around for a while. Yeah, okay. I use Google Docs. I use it with multiple people at all times. So I have so many databases and things that multiple people are working in at the same time. And for me to move projects forward, to have multiple people working simultaneously on the same documents is something that I'm always a huge fan of. And I think in writing, to be able to see, no, this, maybe she should do this instead, and somebody writes back, no, they shouldn't do this, and then somebody gets on fire and writes a scene or a paragraph or whatever, and I'm able to see it right then. I use it for nonprofits where we track stuff at the same time, so that's something that use like crazy. ChatGPT, since Tom mentioned it, I am using it. I've used it to goof around a lot, and I have some fun, so that's not productive, but it makes me smile. But we do use it to analyze some scenes during screenplays, and the writer will just sit there if we're arguing, we'll cut and paste that scene in and say, based on this, what based on rom-coms, what do you think this scene, is this scene hitting each key? And if I say, for a romantic comedy, it seems like after phone is thrown in fish tank that she would have response. Per romantic comedy, it seems like you are saying there is a relationship between these two characters. Okay, so we wrote it good enough that it can understand there's a relationship between these two characters. If there's a relationship between them, it seems like there is some kind of tension building. The tension building I can see in this scene when he does this, or this. And then it gives us some analysis that we're like, oh, that's a good point, never thought of that. Or if we're at a coffee shop and sometimes we'll have somebody behind the counter argue, if somebody would say, OMG. Would somebody say OMG, or would they say, oh my God? This is something we argue over when we're working on some of the stuff we write. And sometimes something like ChatGPT can answer those questions, or at least give us a third party opinion of what it thinks. So Heather, Elise, how are you guys using technology? What are you using right now that we should be using? What do you got for us, Heather?
Hey, good morning. First off, everybody share the room out because Clubhouse is being silly goose. Share the room out, invite your friends. And what I'm using, actually, here's a good one. Okay. So I manage a team of 5 people who help me with clients' social media content and captions and short form video and all that fun jazz. I was communicating with them just via text, like, hey, when do you start working? Hey, what are you working on? Like, blah, blah, blah. We would communicate through text. And I felt like I was getting texts, like, all the freaking day. So I have an intern. She's kind of like doing, like, dual capacity. But she is doing, like, management. So she had this management class and she was looking for an internship. I was like, dude, just like switch your role over to like management and then we can like figure out how you can streamline all these processes for me. Okay, so we use Google Drive, we use Google Sheets, like we're very much within the Google ecosystem. She found Chat, and it's not ChatGPT, it's Google Chat, and Google Chat is amazing. We have a group chat and like all the people, you can share documents within Google Chat. So you can look at the document right while you're in Google Chat. You can share tasks as well. So if I need to delegate tasks, I can delegate tasks right in chat. And then, they get pinged via their username or their email, and then they have a new task, and then they can click it to say it's complete, and then I get a notification. It's awesome. So I use Google Chat, and then for like task organization, we're using Google Keep. And there's Google Tasks, sure, but Google Keep is super cool because it gives you more of a visual element. So I can add like my client logos at the top, and then with all of the tasks that need to be completed per month. And so, once a task is complete, then we check it off, and then we know we got to go to the next one. So Google Keep is super cool, and we're using Google Chat, and that has definitely helped streamline everything, and I don't get like a crap ton of text messages. So, yeah, that's what I'm using. Check it out.
Heather, so if I go in my little Google thing, like up in the top right where it has like 9 different things Google does, is it hard to find this Google Chat, or what's the deal?
Let me look real quick. I never do it that way because I'm very like domain, like URL based. Yeah, so you can see accounts, search, maps, YouTube, play, news, Gmail, meets, chat. And the chat one is like the 2 green little bubbles. It's the third one over, third one down.
Okay, I'm looking at it right now. This is me looking off screen at another computer if you're live streaming. Okay, I see it. Okay, I'll check it out. Got it, thank you. All right, hang out. We're going to have to get you back up on something. Elise, okay, we're talking technology. What are you using right now? And it could be that you got yourself a new, like I see one of my buddies that does that does the editing for Bikes and Hikes. He has on his computer, he has this thing he lays over his keyboard, and it tells him like 100 shortcuts to use on, I don't know what software he's using to edit. That's pretty cool.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I actually, it's funny. So I hope everyone's doing well. And so I love coming into this room. Everybody in this room is amazing. So thanks for having the room and inviting me on stage. I actually feel like an absolute novice in this space. I've kind of been working off of like traditional operating systems for a long time, especially, coming from the corporate world. And I actually am very comfortable with it, but I probably have not a whole lot to add. If anything, I probably have a lot more to learn in ways of new technologies that we're using. I mean, I'm still learning about apps that people have been using for ages. And so I am 100% that person that is a late bloomer or a late adopter when it comes to new technology. But I'm okay with that, because that way those who are fearless and very well adept when it comes to the technology side of life, they can check it out, and by the time all the bugs are fixed, they'll let me know about it. So that's where I'm like, I stay in my own lane. I will be a fearless leader in some areas, and in technology, I will let the experts tell me. So that's kind of where I stand with technology. So I'm kind of here to listen and learn.
I think it's interesting you say that, Elise. First of all, thank you for being here, and thank you for the compliment. Really appreciate you sharing how you feel about the room and the fact that you like coming here. That's kind of the whole goal of what we're doing. We always want everybody to have fun here, to be comfortable, and to gain from being in this space with us. So thanks for being here, first of all. Second of all, I think it's really interesting you said that. What I was thinking about when you were talking about adopting technology and kind of leaving it to the experts, I think adopting technology doesn't mean that you have to become an expert in it, to me, right? This is kind of how I think of it, is you just have to be open to its use, right? I think that's where a lot of people, we see a lot of stumbling blocks. I see a lot of stumbling blocks in my industry in particular. When I work with businesses, when I talk to businesses about using video content as a communication tool for their business, I run into a lot of resistance very often. And I'll have businesses say, well, we use email and email works great. And I'm saying, and I'll turn around and I'll say, you don't have to stop using email. All I'm saying is this is a tool that should be in your toolbox. It should be something you're using because it is by far the single most effective communication tool you have at your disposal, right? 20 years ago, email marketing was new, right? Now it's, you can't live without it, right? And people would say, like, if you're not doing email marketing, are you doing any marketing, right? So I think a lot of it is just being willing and open to its use. You don't have to be an expert, right? You can leave the implementation to somebody who has expertise in that particular field of technology. But I think it's really important to be open to its use. And as you said, you are, right? But that's something that I run into all the time, is that people just aren't even open to it, right? It's heavy resistance to change. It's fear of change. And like I've talked about this before, I don't know if I've talked about it in this room, but I know I've talked about it on stage before. Fear and resistance to change can be, a death knell for your company, right? It can be incredibly destructive. In fact, it is the reason why Kodak went bankrupt. Kodak invented the digital camera, and then they decided that they didn't want to change their business model to move forward with the adoption of that technology that they created, right? And they ended up going bankrupt. So fear of change can be very, very destructive for your business and in your personal life. So I think it's something we have to be careful around, and I think we should always be open to new technologies. Doesn't mean you have to use them all, right? Doesn't mean you have to become an expert in them, but I think you should definitely be open to them. right? I think being closed-minded is a real dangerous way to be, especially in business. So yeah, that was what popped in my mind. Did you have something you wanted to add, Elise?
No, I think such a great point, and it's funny because I think one of the things that I've really come to embrace, at least about myself personally, with regards to embracing change, is being okay with and willing to acknowledge areas where the change I embrace is as a key player at the forefront, versus other lanes of life where I'm actually okay being patient, and watching and observing and then drawing a conclusion. And so, as you're talking, Tom, about embracing change and embracing, within the context of this conversation, new technology, I'm kind of thinking about how understanding where we fall in embracing, leading, and accepting change in all different areas and avenues of our life or in business. It's almost, just as you said, being able to be comfortable and adopt new technology or new change to kind of expand the scope of this. It's also really important, I think, for me personally, to be able to identify which avenues and which areas I am and can play a role in with regards to change, right? Like in some areas that are not technology, I know that I can very comfortably take a strong leadership role and kind of be at the forefront of change. In other areas, I recognize it's probably best if I play a supportive role in change. Or in other areas, it's best that I be patient and observant and then adopt change. And I think to kind of expand that concept that you were talking about with overall change and willingness to embrace and adopt change, whether that's new technology, which I know is the focus of this conversation, or any avenue or area of our life or our business, there's also always an opportunity for us to step back and evaluate for the context of whatever change or whatever area we're engaging in, how can we best serve in that role? And I'm grateful for having that clarity, because it kind of gives me, and hopefully everybody else in the room or others who feel this way, that sort of freedom to be more fluid and to understand that, like, for me personally in technology, I recognize that the role that I can serve best is being observant and patient and then adopting change, versus in other areas, I can serve best by being a leader and creating change and then helping to guide people to that change. And I think we all kind of have those unique talents, right? We all kind of have that niche area where we know we can step into that full leadership role for change, or we can step into that supportive role, or we can step into that adoptive role. And I think this is such an exciting conversation because it gives us the opportunity to highlight the importance of all of those roles in change. And I know that the context of this conversation is technology in particular, but just an observation I made, and just such a great conversation. So thank you for bringing these points up.
Elise, thank you very much. And what you point out there that's interesting is sometimes when you're working with different people or different organizations, you might end up being the leader on something technology-wise that, well, you don't consider yourself an expert or something like that, but it's so clear. Let's say something like MailChimp. Everybody here should have some kind of email database. Okay, whether you're putting it in an Excel spreadsheet or something, you should have emails. You should have contact lists. You should have this. We're all in a basic business. You should have that. If you could call back to me and say, no, I shouldn't have people's names and addresses and emails. I think it's pretty clear. MailChimp is a way to do that. And it's maybe not the newest, hottest thing, maybe something new, but it's a way to do that. It's a way to send out mass emails to it. What, in Elise's point, some of the work I do is with a nonprofit. We help thousands of people a year. We feed 10,000 people a year. We apply for grants. We do all this kind of stuff. When I started with them about 10 years ago, everything was on paper and 100 different people had those pieces of paper. There was no place where anybody could go look and see what our mission statement was, where they could get a copy of our 501c that we were certified 501c, something like that. So I am not the most tech savvy person in the world, but I could see we didn't have a lot of money. We had no money. Google Docs was a place where everybody, all they needed was an email. They could go in and look, and then they could pick up, here's our statistics for last year when they were going out to try to get more money. Here's the events we had. Here's pictures. It was a place where everybody could go. I wasn't the expert, but in that case, to point out to an organization, hey, we need something. This is free. Why don't we try it? And then maybe from that point on, it's went well, and now we're talking about getting Salesforce or going down other avenues. But it's technology. We used it, we tried it, and that's what we're talking about here. Not the smartest guys in the room. Thanks all for being here. We're talking about what technology. We're live streaming too, so imagine that. Live streaming. We have cameras on. And Tom sets up the live stream. Tom, who do you use for the live stream? Restream. Tell us about that real quick.
Yeah, I use Restream. So in sort of something that's becoming more and more common, right? Restream is a web-based software platform, right? And so what we're able to do with Restream is not only take two video feeds from my office here, which is both the image of myself as well as the image next to me of our clubhouse room, but also a video feed from 400 miles away or 300 and change miles away in Pennsylvania of Dom, right, in his office, in his home office. So we have these three video feeds all going live out together, right, as a single stream. So we're able to combine those. And then in addition, Restream has a capability to be able to stream to multiple platforms simultaneously and to allow guests who, like, this is my Restream platform, so it's my Restream account. So Dom is a guest in the Restream room. And so he's able to pair his channels as well. So we're on Facebook, both mine and Dom's. We're on YouTube, both mine and Dom's. We're on my LinkedIn. We're on, I think, both of our Twitters. Are we on your Twitter, Dom? Yeah, we're on both of our Twitters. If Twitter's actually working today, no guarantees there. But yeah, and then also on Twitch. Yeah. So anyway, it's a really interesting platform that allows us to do a whole bunch of things simultaneously. And it's very user friendly. It's really straightforward to use. It hasn't taken that long to really get used to. Sometimes, like today, you make simple mistakes like I did. So the reason I was a little bit late getting into the room is because I was living up to the name of the room, and being not the smartest guy, I have, like, on Restream, you can set up multiple studios, and I had clicked on the wrong studio. And so I was in the wrong studio, and I was texting Dom going, "Where are you, buddy?" And he's like, "It says the host isn't here." And then I looked up and I was like, "Oh, I'm not in the right place." So I had to back out and get in, and that's why I was a minute or two late getting into the room, because I was busy being not the smartest guy in the room. I was so not the smartest guy in the room. I actually wasn't even in the room. But yeah, it's Restream's a really cool platform. There are other platforms similar to it, web-based software platforms like StreamYard. But Restream is the one we chose, and it was specifically because of that feature that we could stream on both my channels and Dom's channels simultaneously. So yeah, so that's what we use. That's how we do it. It's actually not that complicated from my perspective, but it might be, I don't know, it might be really complicated to somebody else, but to me, it's pretty straightforward. And it works really well. That's all I got, Tom. That's how it works.
Hey, good stuff. Well, we will continue. We're trying to get tips, things you're doing. technology you're using. And it could be something that it could be 10 years ago, but it works for you. It's a piece of technology that you're using that you think others could benefit. If you want to share a tip on it, or if you have one you want to ask a question. So like I watched Dr. Tachi's live stream. Dr. Tachi, I'm seeing more live streams lately on LinkedIn. Is it the same? Is it the same live stream? So interesting. Dr. Tachi, you got a technology tip for us or something you're using? Go on, my friend.
Hey, good morning, everyone. There's a lot of technology that I use, but can I give two things rather than just one? Just
Have at it. Give 3 if you want.
Okay, so I think everybody at this point knows Canva. Now, I was kind of vehemently against, I shouldn't say against, but did not use Canva for a while because to me it was kind of janky. And I'm like, this looks like rubbish because I had tried it before, but they've gotten progressively better to the point where I was using a lot of Photoshop before, but that's time consuming. And if you have something that you have to get out quickly in terms of a graphic or whatever, Canva can do, what it can do in terms of removing a background. Now, of course, it's not going to be as fine as the removal of a background, but guess what? It works. An average person is not going to zoom in 1,000 times to see, oh, it's pixelated. They're not going to care. So Canva does the job, even to the point that it has a very simple video editor if you are looking to edit some videos for social media. And they keep even the background remover is not just for still images anymore. They have the background remover for video. Okay, it is not green screen, but if you need something quickly done, it can work. So I really do like Canva for any type of graphic things. Of course, it does documents and all sorts of other things. If you have like the pro version, that's something that once I tried, I said, okay, you've gotten better. I will keep you. And then the second thing, speaking of what Tom is talking about with video and live streaming, I tend to use StreamYard because I had used Restream before and it didn't work for us. We had used it like for a larger event and we were disappointed. But I think they've fixed some of the things since we used it. So it's worth taking another look at. And it's always good to use something. If you're doing live stream and there's more than one of you, web-based or browser-based is the way to go because usually most of them let you have more than one like administrator or more than one host, or 2 of you can be in the studio at the same time. Whereas if you're using something that's like software-based, and I'll throw out Ecamm, a lot of people know Ecamm. Ecamm is great, but only one of you can run it. So if there's like my producing partner and I, if it's on his machine, he can only run it and I can only be a guest, meaning I have no access to controls. So something browser-based, if you're doing something like what Dom and Tom are doing, or you have like a co-host and you both want to be able to control things, something like a Restream, a StreamYard, a Wave.video, Be Live. You just check them out, do the free trials, and see what works best for you. And as Tom said, it's not very difficult. But difficult is in the eye of the beholder. But anything that you want to learn takes time. To sit down with it, play around with it, and they all keep adding great features because they're all competing with one another. So those are the 2, Canva and for me, StreamYard. And I release.
Dr. Tachi, do you pay for Canva? I got an account. I use BookBrush mostly, and that's similar kind of thing. I'm a publisher, so I use it to create images of books for like ads and stuff. But I tried Canva, and every time I try it, it's super small on the screen. I'm like, what am I doing? But do you pay to use Canva?
I do. And you can increase it. All you have to do is there's a slider at the bottom of the workspace that allows you to increase it so that you can see it in a larger format.
It's driving me crazy. Thank you, Dr. Tachi. Okay, and let's keep this going on. Not the smartest guys in the room. We're talking technology that you use. Tom, what do you got? Go on.
So I wanted to say something about Canva, and there are a couple other web-based software solutions or browser-based software solutions like Canva. And so I just wanted to say, because like similar to Dr. Tachi, there I think within the sort of content creation or production or media industry, there tends to be a lot of like looking down your nose at software like Canva or people using Canva and other kinds of software like that. And it's because it is a DIY solution, right? And so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's a lot of places where it makes a ton of sense to DIY things, right? I, as a video production company, I am not the right solution for a solopreneur that needs to create social media content. Like, hiring me and hiring my company to handle that content production for them doesn't make any sense, right? It does make sense to use something like Canva if they have the time to DIY it themselves, right? So there's a lot of derision and looking down the nose at things like Canva. But I think what the mistake that people make is that Canva, I don't see Canva as competition, because the people that are going to hire me are not going to consider DIYing things, right? They're specifically looking for an outside source, an expert to hire to handle production for them, right? That's why people work with me. If somebody is looking to DIY something, they're not going to hire me. So Canva is a great solution for them. And I think, again, there's a lot of opportunity on both sides. And the difficulty we run into is people look at technology like Canva as competition. And here's what it makes me think of is I heard an attorney in an interview say the other day, because there's all this fear that AI is going to replace a lot of contract attorneys' work, right? Because they're developing AI technology now that'll be able to draft contracts, and that they'll actually, that they're getting really good results with these pieces of software that'll be able to draft contracts and things like that. So anyway, in an interview, this attorney got asked about it, and the attorney said, I don't think AI is going to replace attorneys. What I think is going to replace attorneys is attorneys that use AI as part of their practice, right? So the attorneys that adopt the technology as part of their practice, that utilize this contract drafting AI technology as part of their practice to optimize and streamline their practice, they're going to replace attorneys that don't, right? They're going to replace the holdout attorneys. And I think similarly to, Canva and things like that, content creators, media companies that fight against programs like that are going to lose in the long term, right? And so don't think of Canva as competition. See it as a different solution for a different subset of folks, right? That's all it is. It's different. It's not good or bad. It's just different, right? I don't know. So anyway, that was my thoughts on Canva. I just wanted to throw that out there because it gets a lot of derision in the media world, and I don't think it deserves it. I think it's misplaced.
Good stuff, Mom. And sometimes a piece of content is better than no piece of content, right? Putting it out there, it's what it is. It's a moment in time. You get out that picture that has a quote on it or something like that you used on camera. Hey, it was good. Move on. It made somebody smile. It made somebody laugh. It showed your product with a nice picture. Okay, nothing wrong with that. But it's not all full production, pomp and circumstance. We talked about paralysis by analysis a lot of times. Where you just, it's got to be this, it's got to be that. Oh, why? This was going on Instagram on a Tuesday at 3, and you got 300 followers. Easy. So, okay. Can
I derail us for a half second?
Oh no, go on.
Yeah. So this comment just popped up in the chat from somebody named Mark Robert, who I don't know, and who I'm not even sure is still in the room. It's probably a bot. But I just thought it was hilarious because it basically is saying, hey, if people tell you to invest money and they can get huge profits for you in a couple of hours, that's garbage. That's not true, right? What we do is in 3 days, we turn $300 into $6,000. That's how you know it's good, because it takes 3 days, right? That's how you know. It takes at least 72 hours to, to develop that kind of profit, right? What is that, like 2,000% or something, right? Like 2,000% profit in 3 days is totally reasonable, but like, 100 or 200% in a couple hours is completely fake. It's fake. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that. Thanks, Mark Robert, for pointing that out to everybody.
You know what we should do if Mark comes back? We should invite him up on stage and ask him thoroughly about the product and really go into detail like we do on stuff and dig in. Okay, well, how much do I got to put out, and when do I get the return, and how do I get that return? And in 3 days, on the third day, where does that money go?
Right. And he say, "Oh no, don't worry. Just here's the account number. Just send the money. It'll be fine. I promise." Yeah, and his comment does say ... ask me how. So I agree. If he comes back, we should bring him up on stage and ask him exactly how. Right?
All right, we're moving on. Now, we are talking technology. Any technology that you use, something that you either you have a question about it, or you're using it and say, "Hey, this works for me. I'm using this, and here's how I do it." So, Joyce, our Canna mom, what are you using? I know you're on Clubhouse, so what else you got?
Morning. Yeah, I always think of myself as tech phobic, but I was kind of going over what I actually do and how much I've learned since my days of typing my college papers. I don't use Google so much. It's always confused me. My kids had to use it in school, so they're like experts, but I don't know. It just never made sense to me. But for my project organizing, I use Notion, which is kind of, it's pretty simple, but I can keep everything up there, my notes, my guests, my releases, my assets, the things my social media team needs. So that's been really useful. And I am accepting the fact that I am now a content creator, which I sort of not thinking of myself as for a long time. So I am learning how to make reels. So the Instagram world I'm going to become more proficient in. I guess that's technology. But yeah, this conversation makes me anxious because I think of all the things I don't understand. But then I have to focus on the few things that I do actually get. Plus all the podcasting stuff, I have to understand how to use, the hosting sites and all that I've learned. So yeah, that's what I use for technology. But I always feel like I've missed so much stuff in the technology world, and it's just sort of passed me by. So I don't know. I never feel like I'm very confident in this area. That is me. I'm complete.
I'd say you're much farther ahead of the curve than you think you are. I had a business partner for about a year one time, and he would say, for the next 20 years, Facebook's going to be the place to go. I mean, he was always so into all these things that are coming, like even something like whatever, let's say you said Reels. Well, how many people are even on Instagram? How many of your counterparts are on Instagram? How many of them are doing Reels? How many of Joyce's peers are doing Reels right now? Are you ahead of them? I would guess you probably are. So give us, what's the hardest part about making Reels, or what is some, Joyce, when you're making them, what's something that gives you a little bit of, you're like, damn, this is troublesome or hard, or?
So I again, I'm not the photographer in my family. So now when I walk around anywhere, I'm always like taking little videos. So my husband's always making fun of me. And I don't usually have me in them, which I try to do a little bit, but I know part of it is me. But it's just a little awkward. I find it like a little uncomfortable, but I know that I have to have content. And then, I don't know, it's a headset. But the idea that, it's relevant for me to actually be out there taking videos and making little, fun introductory videos for my friends to see what dispensaries look like. That's what I've been doing really mostly. I go visit new dispensaries every week, and my friends go with me, and it's fun. I was talking to a marketing person yesterday because cannabis can be a little discouraging, but she's just remember to have fun. So the reels are fun for me once I get them going.
Sorry, I go down a wormhole. This is me. Do you have to when you go in a place like that, you got to get approval from them before you start filming?
It's interesting. So because I have the podcast, sometimes, I give out lighters every place I go. So I have the Canna Mom Show lighter. So as soon as I walk in, people are kind of happy to see me. Sometimes I get introduced to the manager, and they bring me to the back and downstairs, and they give me a pass, and they let me take videos of everything. And some of them have very strict policies about what taking pictures inside. I was in Provincetown a couple of weeks ago, and none of the dispensaries would let me take pictures inside, which I thought was interesting. So there were 5 dispensaries in Provincetown, which is the cape at the end of Massachusetts. And I just basically did like, basically the town. That was like kind of showing how many dispensaries are down there. That's how I kind of did it. But usually the dispensary owners are really excited to see me.
I love it. Okay. And I find that world interesting. So I am such a huge proponent. Pro means positive, I think. So proponent to your point of view. People want to see things through your point of view. I'd love to see your face on that too. But like, I mean, I was in New York and saw those trucks that sold cannabis. I was in LA and went to my first dispensary. Somebody took me through one. It was cool. I'd like to see more of what's going on. It's interesting. I think a lot of the world doesn't know what's going on. So I think when you think content creation, I would argue back to you, to anybody in this room, it is point of view. It's what I'm doing today. It's documenting what's going on. That's what your world is interesting. It's different than my world. Please document it. Don't think so much about, I got to create this valuable piece of content. I'm going to document what's going on today. Like, I'd like to see the outside of that place in Cape Town. I'd like to see Cape Town. I don't even know I've never been to Cape Town.
Provincetown. It's the tip of Massachusetts.
Okay. See, I've never been to either. Tom, you seem like you're chomping at the bit. Go on.
Well, I just wanted to throw something out real quick. If you haven't been to Provincetown, it is, I think, the most beautiful part of Cape Cod. It's absolutely gorgeous out there. So definitely worth a trip out to Provincetown. Cape Town is a much further trip. That's in South Africa. But for those of us in the sort of eastern part of the United States, Provincetown is a much easier trip. The thing I wanted to say was just like a best practices thing. So what Joyce was talking about and you were asking her about, do you ask permission from the people in the dispensary before you film anything? Best practices, if you're inside a building, a space that is controlled by someone else, you should always ask permission before you film something for commercial purposes. So if you are filming and posting something to your business page, that's considered commercial purposes, right? And you should, best practices, always ask permission, right? If you are outside and you're on public property in the United States, if you're on public property, then you are legally allowed to film anything you want, right? So if you want to go outside and film a reel standing in front of a dispensary, standing on the sidewalk, or standing in the street, as long as you're on public property, that is a protected right, and you can do that. And the argument goes that they have no reasonable right to privacy because the store is facing a public thoroughfare, right? So because the storefront is facing public property, it is viewable from public property. They have no reasonable right to privacy, and so you can film out in front and include their sign and et cetera, right? And then post that on your social media accounts or on your website or wherever you want to post it, right? But if you're inside a space that is controlled by someone else, then you should always ask permission before you film there, especially if you're doing it for commercial purposes. Because there is legal recourse. If they wanted to come after you, they absolutely could. They'd be well within their rights. If you filmed something without permission in their space, they'd be well within their rights. And if you want to be super careful about it, I'm not expecting people to walk around with like release forms on them at all times. Literally turn your camera on and ask them on camera and record it, right? And just keep it as a separate clip. Is it okay with you if I film in here? Yes. Okay. Please tell me your name. Are you the manager? Whatever. Right. And then you just have a record of it. Right. And so if anything comes up later on, you can go, look, I asked, I did my due diligence. I got permission from the manager. That's sufficient. Right. So that kind of thing. And a lessee, somebody who leases the space, a lessee can grant permission to film in a space that they control as the lessee. So whether that's a private residence, an apartment, or that's a store, whoever is the lessee, they can grant permission. So if the owner of the building turned around and said, I never said somebody could film in there, well, tough. The lessee did, and they actually control the space as part of their lease. So in terms of filming, it's legal for them to give permission. So just some best practices stuff in terms of like filming permissions. It's something that obviously I deal with on a different level as we do commercial productions, and back in my days in TV, we had to be real careful about this stuff because networks, people like to sue television networks, but yeah, just some best practices to keep in mind as you guys go and film stuff. Just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Joyce. Hey, and everybody else who's here. We appreciate you. We got our boy Brian Swift and Johnny. Okay, these guys are tech savvy wizards. Brian, the question is where we're starting today. You have a podcast. You're writing books. What piece of tech are you using that you think, man, everybody should be using this, or that you jumped on and you're like, man, this made things easier? What is it for you?
I don't know if it was Elise who said it or maybe Heather. I'm the one learning, even though I have a podcast and a YouTube channel and an author. I am still that, at least I feel I am that dinosaur in the world of technology. Like Thomas said, man, you better be open to it. Totally agree. Well, I think many people alluded to that. You better be open to it because it's here and more is coming. So I wish I had something to add in terms of what I do that would make everybody's life easier. And probably the biggest thing I do, this might sound crazy, is I still have a notebook with a legal pad in it and a pen in it, and I keep it in the back of my wheelchair because at any given time, my mind might start racing. And I use that to jot ideas down and notes and different things instead of my phone. And there's reasons for that. My hands, as a quadriplegic, my hands don't work so well. So there's no way of doing it on the phone. It's quick, unless I use voice technology, which I should. But I feel my best asset out there is still my mind, because I'm trying to stay genuine to my thoughts and what I want to do. And I see the benefits of a lot of technology, but I think we as adults, and I'm not going to say I will say, especially if you have kids, maybe grandkids, and in other scenarios, we're so used to things like, this helps me now. I could do this now. We've got to do this now. I think we have a duty to think about, what will this do down the line? Is this going to be a benefit down the line? How is it going to be used by the younger kids? How is it going to be used by people that aren't maybe as pure and simple? How is it going to, how could this affect us down the line? If you listen in your mind, go back to all the comments, it's about now, and I can do this now, and I can do it quicker, and I can do it faster. But, I think that I know we're changing and we're used to some of this, now, quicker, faster, but there's an effect to all of it. And the long-term effect, I think people need to maybe stop and consider that more and wonder, what is the long-term effect? And we could sit and say, well, we can't change it. It's not here. I'm not saying don't use it, but I think we as an adult and have seen technology used for good and evil, owe it to the people, our children, our grandchildren, and others to maybe be more cognizant of, what could possibly happen down the line. I'm complete. Thank you.
I got two things I want to add, Dom, if I can jump in to Brian. So first of all, I think it's an interesting point you brought up, Brian, about and actually one that my friend Kurt brought up on LinkedIn in a comment he posted, and it really revolves around like just being aware of, right? I don't think it's a reason not to adopt new technology, but be aware that everything comes at a cost, right? That there are always unintended consequences of change, right? There are always, whether we want something to be wholly positive, there are often unintended negative consequences to positive change, right? So the thing Kurt brought up was, like look at pollution from automobiles, right? I mean, something that wasn't thought about, wasn't really discussed, wasn't really a concern for I don't know, 50 years, the first 50 years of automobiles as a widely adopted use of technology, right? But obviously, it's something we should have been worrying about sooner, right? So I think it's important to really think about those unintended consequences and what are the sort of the potential downsides to technology we adopt, and how can we mitigate those things early. The other thing, on a much lighter note, that I wanted to hit on was I too used to be a hardcore notebook devotee, right? So I always had a Moleskine notebook with me. I've heard people pronounce it Moleskine too. I always just said Moleskine. I don't know which one's right, and I don't really care. I'm just going to say Moleskine. But I always had a little Moleskine notebook with me and a pen. Every meeting I went into, every time I sat down, if I needed to jot something down, I always had my notebook with me, right? And it was incredibly useful, but also a little bit frustrating at times. And so what I have now is this bad boy. And I grabbed it out of my bag so I could hold it up for anybody watching the live stream. This is my Remarkable 2. And it's literally spelled remarkable, right? And what it is it's an e-paper notebook. And when you write on it using the stylus, it feels just like you're writing with a pen, right? It has the same sensation of writing on paper, but the beauty of it being digital is that you get some advantages. For example, I can have a notebook for every client, and I can carry it around all in one notebook. So whenever I sit down or have a meeting with a particular client, I open up that notebook for that client and I write down my notes for that meeting. Now, if I have notes for a meeting that go with or follow on from an earlier meeting and there's something in between, guess what? I can move the pages in the notebook around. So the notes are all sort of contiguous, right? So if I have multiple projects going on with one client and I want to collate the notes for one project, right? It doesn't matter in time when I wrote them down, I can move them around in the notebook so the pages are all together, which is one of the things that used to drive me nuts about having a paper notebook, is that if I had a meeting and then a month later had another meeting with somebody, all those pages of notes in between, right? I'd have to make notes of like, okay, continued on page whatever, right, in the notebook. I'd have to flip through and find. It was like always kind of drove me a little bit nuts. This takes care of all that. And then lastly, the other beauty of it is that it'll use handwriting recognition to actually turn my handwritten notes into text, and I can email them to myself. So if I take notes from a meeting and I want to share those notes with my client or somebody else in the meeting, no problem. I just click a button, email it to myself, comes through as text, and I can copy and paste it into a document, into a Google Doc or something like that, or just email it, forward it on to them through email so they have the notes as well. So anyway, yeah, you can do all kinds of things like import a PDF and actually do markups on the PDF. It's a pretty cool device. I would encourage people to look it up. If you really love having a notebook, the Remarkable is a great technological solution to a paper notebook. So I just wanted to share that too, because I think it works really well.
Thanks for sharing that, Tom.
Yeah, go on. That seems like something you should be making videos about for when we had Billy Thorpe here and he was talking about his Amazon influencer where he makes videos and gets paid on it. Seems like the way to go. I think you might have sold us, Tom.
Are you saying I'm a pitch man? Are you saying I should?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. If you believe in something, if we all believe in a product, there's nothing wrong with wanting other people to benefit from it.
Hey man, Billy Mays did okay for himself. He sold a lot of OxyClean. He was driving around a Bentley. So
yeah, what's that? that spray that can keep a boat from sinking. Come
The
on.
Flex Seal.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
who doesn't need Flex Seal? I might go get a can of Flex Seal and just start
I
spraying
loved
it.
those infomercials.
Yeah. See that?
You know, I used Flex Seal on my gutters last year, and it works.
There we go. See, you should go do a Flex Seal. All right, we're moving on. Johnny, man, what piece of tech are you using that we should be using? Johnny usually has his ear to the streets. Ear to the streets. That's a cool thing to say.
Well, so
Go
I
ahead.
am an early adopter of a lot of technology, a lot of platforms, a lot of outlets. But I don't have anything that I would say is like so remarkable that you have to adapt it. I'm very much a if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of guy. And if something is working for you, you know, don't feel pressure to change it. You know, I was listening to Dr. Tachi talk about Canva. I hated Canva, hated it. And I come from a, you know, I'm an illustrator. I come from a graphic design, Photoshop experience kind of guy. I did record label covers for, album covers for record labels for years and years. And I do all my own live show promotional posters, and Photoshop was my thing. And Canva came along and I tried it and I hated it. But then I tried it again. And then I tried it again, and they kept making improvements. And you know what? Today I use it all day long. I did my media kit in Canva. I do all of my reels in Canva. I do all of my new logos, podcast show art, everything. I'm doing it in Canva because they made the improvements and made it fit my workflow. And that's the thing. You got to find technology that fits your workflow. I'm a very much on the move, on the go kind of guy. And so sometimes I need a technology solution that I can use sitting in my car in a parking lot somewhere. And Canva allows me to do that. And yes, I pay the $12.99 Pro for it because it works. Same thing with podcasting. A lot of people, kind of look down on me for using Anchor. I've been podcasting since 2005. I've used every platform that's out there. But the reason I switched to Anchor is because they've got a platform that works really great on mobile and it fits my workflow. And guess what? If you want video on Spotify, if you want your video podcast on Spotify, you have to go through Anchor. So, I get a free piece of technology, a free hosting platform that fits my workflow, but it might not fit somebody else's workflow. And Brian and Tom, I'm a huge Moleskine journal guy. I carry my adventure journal with me everywhere I go, and I make notes. And every couple of months, I go through it, and I look for connections. I look for ideas to spark new revelation. Now, Tom, I was watching the video. I've looked at Remarkable quite a bit. And here's my problem with digital note taking. I can never remember where I saved it. And that's why I like the hard book. It's right there in my hand at all times. So, I'm curious about how Remarkable solves that problem. And then I have a question for you, Dominick, because I'm watching the video feed this morning and I have to know, how much do you spend on hair product per month? I'm John. I'm done. Ta-da!
All right, I want to hear about Dom's hair first, and then we'll go back to Remarkable.
All right, let's get serious here. One, I think I want to dye my hair. I've been thinking about this for years. And I don't know if I've ever told you this, but like one of my buddy's daughters, we went to Lowe's one day to get something, and all of a sudden she was like getting ready to graduate from high school. All of a sudden she turns to me and she goes, "Why don't you dye your hair?" And then all of a sudden I got into, and I don't. All of a sudden I picked my daughter up, who's like 14, she was 13 at the time, from a football game one day, and her friend sits behind me, and in the car she goes, "Why don't you dye your hair?" And that day I went on Amazon, and my Amazon was in Chinese at the time. I don't know why, just from my phone. So I ordered dye from, and so I didn't know it was in China. I just bought it, and so it took like 2 months to get to the house. Like, and my wife's like, "You could buy dye at like Walmart or something. Why'd you order?" I'm like, "I don't know. I got mad and I ordered it that day." And so it's sitting up there in a box, and it says "Just for Men" on it in black, but I'm afraid to use it. So Johnny, the only thing I spend money on is mousse, and I don't care if usually it's my wife's Curl Construct. It could be any mousse I see on the thing. I look at it and I'm like, that looks like one to try. And then I put mousse in my hair. So your answer is probably less than $4 a month. So there you go. Thank you.
Because let me tell you what, you need to be doing a video series on men's hair care, because your hair is fabulous.
One more thing about that. When I used to do more speaking out in public and stuff, and I had pretty much shaved my head my whole life, or like the shortest hair there was, and I never worried too much about it. And I used to, like, when I was in school, I'd cut lines in it like Mike Tyson and stuff like that. Like, I'd have girls' initials in my hair. Yeah, I'm telling you stuff you didn't know. Lines, tracks, girls' initials, all that stuff in my hair. Never thought much about it. Finally, one day, my dad was like, "You have a full head of hair." He's like, "And you're shaving it all off. What are you thinking?" He's like, "You got to get yourself together and comb it nice." And so it was my dad who got me out of these real short haircuts. So there's we've covered the gamut, and that's what we do on Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. The one day we were talking about cobbler in this room, and now today we've spoken about hair products. Swifty, what do you want to add there? I see you flashing off. Swift probably spends $300 a month in hair product.
I gotta agree with Johnny, man. I'd be using that and that bright white smile. I mean, you should be. I mean, that's why I do radio. I mean, but you could be. You got to be doing more movies and film. I mean, you've got a face for movies and film, not radio.
Well, and he's got those big brown doe eyes. I mean, he's a pretty man, and I say that in all of my heterosexual confidence.
Hey, I'm getting better looking with age. When I was about 12, I had teeth that stuck out of my mouth like this and no jaw, and then I had a big pot belly, and people used to beat me up all the time. So another 10 years, my wife she'll have paid her dues, and I'll be looking half normal. So I will allow this sidebar no more. Okay, Jamie, what piece of tech are you using?
Well, Dom, I was going to answer Johnny's question about Remarkable.
Okay,
real quick before we go to Jamie. So Johnny, the Remarkable, everything's stored on the device, and then it backs up to the cloud, so you can have it backed up on a desktop platform as well. And it's a notebook. So like you click on you can have a bunch of different notebooks. You can have lots of them. So like if you have a notebook for brainstorms, right? Then when you have a brainstorm, you just open your Remarkable, you click on that notebook, you go to a clean page, you write down what you want to write down, and all your brainstorms are in that notebook. So it's always there. It's always on the device. You just click on it and open it. And then it'll mirror the device on like your desktop. So if you want to reference something, you can open the app on your desktop and open that notebook and read what you've written in your brainstorm notebook. So hopefully that helps kind of answer the question. But it keeps everything locally on the device. and backs it up to the cloud, so it's available on your desktop and other platforms as well.
Hey, Johnny, another positive thing I just was looking at them is the price point. So, when that day you get really frustrated and want to toss something or hit something, I mean, $279, $299, it's probably one of the cheapest devices that we would probably own, when you look at what we own. So it's not a bad price point. I was pleasantly surprised. So.
Tom, are you then going to a meeting with your laptop and your Remarkable?
No, I just walk in with my Remarkable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to make things easier, not carry 9 things around in my backpack. Jamie, what do you got? Go on, Tom.
Oh, no, I was going to say, yeah, you don't need to take both for sure. So I just take the Remarkable, and same way. I mean, I used to just walk in with my Moleskine notebook. So I just use the Remarkable instead now. But yeah, so.
I used to, when I was in insurance, and Johnny, you're in insurance. So I used to have to carry a laptop, then the little iPad, and then sometimes you even carried a little printer with you, a wireless printer. I mean, I was like, my bag that I was carrying around weighed like 100 pounds. I was like, what the hell? Plus your regular notebooks and all that other stuff. Sorry, Tom doesn't like that. Huh? I'm looking at, if Tom's body language could tell a story, I just told the story and I'm looking at him and he's giving like the most hateful, like somebody just,
No, I got distracted by something. It had nothing to do with you.
Yeah. Okay.
I promise. It had nothing to do with you.
Jamie, come on, steer us in the right direction. What piece of tech is somebody as brilliant as Jamie using that we should all jump aboard with?
You guys have been so fun to listen to and try not to break into because there's so many funny facts, but Canva, I like Canva. I started learning it 3 years ago and, it's much easier than some other stuff. I actually just went and downloaded the other one though, the Remarkable, because I want a better notepad and, the iPhone's not the best. So I want to use the tablet. Or the iPad, whichever. Remarkable looks neat, though I haven't tried it. So my Canva stuff, I use my Canva stuff a lot for my Facebook. When I'm making all these things to point out, like the films or whatever that are coming out, and just marketing myself or marketing my friends. I like making stuff for my friends too. You put whatever you want. I kind of envy Johnny. I don't have the extra one. I just have the normal one, but I make it work, I make it work.
Well, it's $12.99 a month. And for me, it's such a nominal cost and the return on investment for $12.90. I mean, that's less than the cost of a price of a pizza once a month. I couldn't justify not paying it for what I use it for.
Johnny, can you just tell me about this? So you're editing your reels on that. Why don't you just edit them in like the reels part? What's your thought process?
Well, okay, so here's the deal. So we do live streaming video for Back of the Cereal Box every Saturday morning, and we use StreamYard. Very much like you guys are using Restream this morning. We use StreamYard, and StreamYard allows me to clip and repurpose video. So I will clip it. I will edit it down, into individual clips using StreamYard, download it to whatever device I'm on, maybe my phone or my laptop, and then I paste it into a template for a reel for Instagram and TikTok. So it's got the background, it's got the captions, and our logo on the template. But like I just did a reel this morning that was an unboxing. We were sent cereal pop from from the company at Nabisco and Post, and I just let the camera roll for that, and did 4 short clips and edited them together in Instagram. So, but that was an on the fly thing. So if I'm just going on the fly, I'll just turn the camera on and go. But if it's something that I want to have a little bit more polish, I'm going to use Canva and drop the video into that Canva template. So that's what I use it for. And then I use Canva to do all of the show cards, what I call show cards. Some people call it cover art. I call them show cards because I come from the old theater days, and that's what we called them. But everything that all of the artwork that you see me put out on Facebook and Instagram, almost 99% of it is being created by Canva.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for the explanation. So I hope everybody got some good tips today, or got something where you're like, hey, I might try this. But
let me clarify something there, Dominic.
What's
I
up,
just
brother?
said created by Canva. That's not true. I create it with Canva.
Hey,
Canva is not AI. So just FYI.
You're no worries here, Johnny. Okay, so in honor of Johnny, here's what we're gonna do. This is what don't tell me what we're gonna do. This is my room now. It's me and Tom's, okay, here's what we're gonna do. Tom's gonna take us out here in a minute, but before we go, in honor of Johnny, okay, we got Jamie, Brian, Joyce, Dr. Tachi, me, and Tom will finish this up. What is your favorite cereal? Because Johnny's got back in the cereal box. So favorite cereal. Johnny, you want to start us off?
It's funny because yesterday was National Cereal Day. And so I've been thinking about my top 5, and it rotates between Fruity Pebbles and Captain Crunch and Cinnamon Toast Crunch. But I got to tell you, the absolute best cereal I've ever had in my entire life is the Sugar Cookie Toast Crunch. It's only out during the Christmas season, and it is unbelievable good.
Oh, thank you, Johnny. And Dr. Tachi gave you those big eyes, so I think she wants a piece of it. Jamie, best cereal that you had, your favorite cereal. Go on.
Mini wheats. I love mini wheats. I've always loved mini wheats. But if I was going with sugar stuff, I like Fruit Loops, dry Fruit Loops.
Mini wheats and Fruit Loops. Brian Swift, what do you got for us?
Wow, there is no one great one. So I got to go like Johnny, top 5, and I might not name 5, but I got to go with a traditional one. I'm a Kellogg's guy, so I got to go with Count Chocula. I've got to go with Captain Crunch. I've got to go with actually it's healthy, and it's Raisin Bran Crunch, which is phenomenal. It's almost like eating Frosted Flakes with granola, which Frosted Flakes would be on my list too. So many good cereals. I'm complete.
All right, there's nice list of 5. Canamom, is there a cannabis infused cereal, or what's top on your list, or do you just eat all kinds of cereal when you indulge? Go on, Joyce.
That's so funny. We're talking to my kids how we aren't really cereal eaters. We saw them this weekend, but I do like Frosted Mini Wheats, and I do like Life. That was an old school one that I used to eat when I was a kid, but I don't actually eat much cereal anymore. But that's true. And I'm a sophisticated stoner. I don't just stand in front of the cereal box and eat stuff out of it. That is not how I roll.
As if I would know anything. I'm just saw it on TV. Okay, Dr. Tachi, what cereal would you go with here?
I love peanut butter. I don't know if anybody else does, but the peanut butter Chex is bomb. You don't even have to have any type of milk or plant-based milk in my case with that for that to be good. You could just eat it as a snack. So peanut butter Chex And I also like peanut butter puffins, which is like kind of like an organic cereal. So anything peanut buttery that's not overly sugary, I like.
I saw Reese's Puffs now has for Easter. They got ones that look like little bunny rabbits. So you can get yourself some Reese's Puffs. I'm going to go with Cocoa Pebbles, and when it's seasonal, Boo Berry. Boo Berry is some stuff. It always takes me. That's the back of the cereal box nostalgia Saturday stuff, Johnny. Boo Berry for me. So that's what I got. All right, thank you. Now, Tom, you got to tell us your cereal. Then you got to figure out how to get some sense out of this room today. So go on.
All right, thanks, Tom. So I'm going to give a list. I'll stop at 5. I am terrible at picking favorites. It is like a notorious weak point for me because for me, like the things I like are all sort of context based. So contextually, I like different things, different times for different reasons, which is why I'm really bad at picking like lists. Like somebody's like, what's your favorite movie? And I'm like, I don't know. Like depends on what kind of mood I'm in, right? So anyway, same thing goes for cereals. I'm terrible at picking favorites of anything, but I'll give you a list of 5. So in no particular order, I would say Honey Bunches of Oats, Frosted Flakes, Cocoa Krispies, Captain Crunch, and Cinnamon Toast Crunch. That would be my 5. Those are the first 5 that like come to mind when it comes to cereal. And then if you asked me if you said, so those are your 5 top cereals, I would then try to edit the list. So that's just going to stay there with it. Right. Cause I'm a lunatic like that. So anyway, sorry, Johnny, do you want to throw something in there?
For everyone who named Frosted Flakes, I want to recommend the Frosted Flakes cinnamon French toast Frosted Flakes. It is your traditional Frosted Flakes with just a taste of cinnamon and maple, and it's unbelievable good.
I mean, that sounds good. I genuinely don't remember the last time I had Frosted Flakes because I also don't eat a lot of cereal these days. But I might have to look for that for like for a little snack or something to keep around for a treat. So all right, so now I got to make sense of the room for today. Thanks, Dom. No pressure. But no, in all seriousness, I'll go back to what I was saying earlier about technology. I think there's a lot of fear when people hear about new technology or adopting technology. There's a lot of fear, and I think there's a lot of misperceptions about what that really means. And so I'll leave you with what it means to me, right? Technology doesn't have to be new and cutting edge, right? It can be existing technology. It can be technology that is proven over time that you're just not using. But at the end of the day, we should use technology to optimize our time, to optimize processes and procedures to make our lives easier so we can get more done, right? Or so that we have more time to do the things that we really enjoy, right? Dishwashers are technology, right? What do we use them for? We use them to do dishes so we don't have to do dishes and we can spend time doing other things, right? So technology should make our lives easier. And I think it's important to make sure that however you use technology, you use it in a way that improves your life. And if it doesn't, if you're using technology that doesn't make your life better, then maybe you need to reevaluate whether or not or how you're using that technology. And then the last thing I'll leave you with is just don't be afraid. Please check your fear at the door. Do not be afraid of technology. Do not be afraid of change. That fear, that paralysis by analysis, right, is often how it sort of expresses itself, can be really detrimental to your personal life and your professional life, to your business. And again, I'll point at Kodak as a prime example. You know, Kodak, which is a company that was founded in Rochester, New York. It was the largest employer in that city, and they literally invented the digital camera. And then because they were afraid of changing their business model to adapt to and incorporate new technology that they created, because of that fear of change, it led to Kodak going bankrupt, a company that had led the industry when it came to film production and photography, right? And even moving picture production for 100 years, right? They were the cornerstone of that industry, and they went bankrupt because of a fear of change. So do not be afraid of change. Embrace change. Take it with a grain of salt. Be aware of the fact that change can have costs associated with it. It can lead to negative unintended consequences. But at the end of the day, as Joyce said much earlier in the chat, the only thing you can count on is change. So don't fight it. It's a losing battle. Accept it and move forward. And that's what I'll leave us with today. So that's all I got. Thanks everybody for being here. As always, really appreciate it. I apologize. I was a minute or two late getting into the room, Dom, because I'm a dum-dum. But at the end of the day, I was just living up to the name of the room and being one of the not the smartest guys in the room. So that's all. Thank you all for being here again. Love you guys, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Bye, everybody.